Now then, I figured it was about time I did a new Suno AI video because it's quite a while since I last did a video on Suno. And in the time since then, the platform's pretty much completely changed. They've added a whole ton of new features to it ever since my last video, mostly just little things that improve the way you work with it and make it more fun and easier to work with. But in the last month, they've given it a huge update. There's now a whole new model on it, which gives you better quality songs, longer songs. You can now get 8 minutes out of it. And also they sound more like actually commercially released music as well. And they've added smarter prompts so you can tell it to do more stuff than you could before. And also it's pretty much going to give you what you want first time, rather than before where you kind of had to hope for the best a lot of the time and really work with your prompts to get what you want. And also they've added a whole ton of new controls to it as well, which just give you more creative input into what you actually get from it. You can edit parts of the songs in the middle of a song now, and they've added a whole ton of little things which we're going to go through in this video. So let's go through some of the new things that they've added. Now, there's quite a few things that we need to go through, so this could end up being quite a long video. I'll do my best to keep it as concise as possible. Also, I already know there's a whole bunch of musicians and producers going to get incredibly annoyed at seeing the stuff we're going to do in this video, and especially when I start calling Suno a creative tool, which I believe it is. But I can already hear them in the comments going, AI is not creative, it just steals other people's work. And yet, can be used to that. But it is a creative tool at the end of the day, especially now you can do so much with it and have so much direct input into it, rather than just typing something in and hoping for the best. And I'm sorry, but just get with the program. The robots are coming, and anyone who's worked with any sort of creative software in the last year, like videography software, graphic design, even some music programs, they're all incorporating AI tools directly into the software now for you to use there and then. They're heavily promoting them as well. And also, a lot of people who work in offices, they're even being given AI training at work because they know that their jobs are probably on the line at some point. So I'm sorry, just get with the program. And if you're that annoyed about AI, go to Threads or Blue Sky. There's loads of people like you can whinge about it too on there. One more thing I just want to mention before we get into today's Suno shenanigans. As a lot of you have probably seen, I'm doing a lot more video content recently. I've been quite enjoying doing it. And to be honest, I'd really like to do more interesting, more in-depth, and overall just much more professional looking videos than these little things I'm filming on my phone in my bedroom or things I'm doing on my GoPro at a gig. Now, I've always been a DJ. I've never been set up for this sort of thing. And out of all the things I've ever looked at doing, this is the one that costs the most money to invest in and really get right. So I have a donation link at Ko-fi. I've had it for quite a while, but people have been donating to it ever since I started doing more videos. So I thought it was worth a mention. I'll put the link here, and it's also in the description of the video as well. I'm not expecting it from anybody. I know times are hard, but if people do want to send me some pennies so I can do more stuff like this, then feel free to do so, and I'd be very grateful. Now let's get on with today's Suno stuff. So then, the first thing I want to mention that we've added in the last few months seems like a small thing, but it's absolutely essential for any sort of serious creative platform, I think. This thing called Workspaces. Anybody who's ever used Suno for more than 5 minutes will be fully aware that if you had an ongoing project that you were really trying to work on, you had no meaningful way at all of keeping all that stuff together and organised. There was absolutely nothing that you could use really to actually do it effectively. And if you had loads of little clips and edits and different versions of songs you were working on, all you could really do was just make sure that you deleted anything that you definitely weren't going to use straight away. And even then it was still disorganized. So to me, them adding this thing has just made this platform so much better overnight. All you need to do to create a new workspace is go into the Workspaces menu in the Create panel, click New Workspace. Let's set up one here, Suno Video Project. There you go, we've created a new workspace, and what will happen is anything that you create can now go directly into that workspace as soon as you make it. So any edits, any new tracks, any different versions of tracks, anything you do on this project, you can now put in one place, which to me, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Suno. Another cool thing that I've added to Suno in the time since I did my last video is this thing called Personas. And what you can do with this is any songs where you generate something where you like the voice, you like the instrumentation, musical style or whatever, even if you don't actually like the song, you can actually generate a persona and use the same voices and sounds in future. Now, obviously, that's good for artist consistency if you're actually wanting artist consistency out of an AI product. But it's just good to have anyway, because you're always going to find sounds that you like in Suno, even if you don't like the song itself at the end. So all you need to do to create one of those, go to a song that you've done before that you like, click the menu, go to create, and when you get this thing say make persona, just give it a name like, I don't know, Transistuff. And also I would suggest, if you're going to use this in future and you don't want anybody else to use it on Suno, make sure you unmark it as public and just click save. And then when you go to the add persona thing here, you just select the one you want to use again. And then we've got the important bit here, the new model that we've added, V4.5. We added this a few weeks ago. It says here, smarter prompts, better genre mashups, faster generations, maximum 8 minutes. And I can honestly say it's so much better than anything we've had from Suno before. It actually makes last year's product sound completely dated, like it's like 10 years old or something. That just shows you how fast AI is actually advancing. Obviously, the first thing it mentions here is the smarter prompts, and I can absolutely confirm they are much, much better than before. When I first started using Suno, the prompt box was like 120 characters, so you couldn't be hyper detailed. And also, the more detail you gave it, the less likely you were to get what you actually wanted. It was really sort of hit and miss what you could get sometimes, and you just had to hope for the best. Now you can put a lot more detail in and actually get what you want first time. One other thing you can do is you can ask for much more complex things than before. Like if you asked it to do a duet or something in the past, it usually wouldn't give you one. And also if you ask for it in a certain key, it usually wouldn't give you one. Now you can actually type in specific keys that you're looking for. You can put key changes in there and actually get them exactly right each time. And you can ask for a voice in a particular style, ask for a duet, it will give you it. I can't vouch for this thing about better genre mashups because unfortunately I've not been using Suno for that. However, if you've actually listened to any of the public content on Suno, you'll find a ton of people are using it for that. So it must work. Like I say, I can't vouch for it, but what I can say is when you actually type a specific subgenre or era of a genre that you're looking for, you're more likely to get the thing you're actually looking for. I remember last year we did a video where I asked it to make classic Ibiza trance or something, and it gave me like a cascada type thing in the video, which sounded good, but was probably not what most people are looking for when they want a trance tune from this thing. When I've been using it over the last few days, like with this track here, I've been putting euphoric uplifting, Ibiza 1998 style trance track at 140 BPM, and it's given me exactly that. It's given me proper classic sounding trance music. And where I've been putting key changes in and so on, I don't know if you'll be able to see this properly if you're watching on a small screen, but if you can see on YouTube here, I've highlighted in this song, I put in the prompt F minor key verses with a key change to A flat major in the chorus. It gave me exactly that every single time. And even when I change the keys round, it gave me exactly that every single time. It pretty much gives you the BPM you want every single time. This is the sort of thing you want Suno for, because this is what makes music interesting. And a lot of producers, as I've said in previous videos, are self-taught and haven't had any musical training. They don't really know how to do this sort of thing effectively. So this is a really good way for them to try stuff out. Now, this is the new stuff that we've added recently that's really interesting. These advanced options here. Once you've put your style description in there, in other words, your prompts, you can ask it to exclude styles. So any sort of instruments you don't want in your track at all, any sort of vocal styles like you don't want to rap, you can ask it to exclude that completely. This has been on here a good while actually, but it never used to work very well. Now it actually works really quite well. And then these are the most recent additions. Weirdness. Right, turn it up for wild unexpected results. And yeah, if you turn this up, then you usually get, especially if you turn it up to like chaos mode here, you get all sorts of mad tangents in your track, like key changes, like weird vocal styles. It'll suddenly change to another genre or something like that and have like a drum and bass drop in the middle of a trance track or something. I usually leave it on 50 because that's about right. You get exactly what you're looking for, right? But you get something interesting. If you turn it down, sort of like below 35, 39, then what you end up getting is something that's what you're looking for, but is really quite bland and cookie cutter, right? So you leave it on 50, it's about right there. Then there's this one, style influence. Like it says, turn it up to match your style description. What you're basically doing here is giving it an indication of to how loosely or strictly you want it to apply your prompts that you've put here. I usually have it at about 80 to 90% because I'm quite strict about what I'm looking for. I'm really specific about what I want, and I want it to give me exactly what I'm looking for, right? So if you have it there, then it's usually going to give you exactly what you want. As soon as you start getting to like 65, it starts being a bit more experimental. And I would never have it above 90 though, because once you go above 90, it applies your prompt so harshly that you get something really cookie cutter and basic. And at least here, it still gives you what you want, but it's interesting. I would never have it lower than sort of 50, because once you start going there, it just starts taking no notice if you prefer the lower you get. So don't have it any lower than 50 if you're keen on what you're looking for. When you have a persona set up, like I've set one up here, you also get this extra option, audio influence. Turn it up to resemble your original audio or persona. Right, I usually have that one at about 70 because if I'm applying a persona, I want it to sound like what the original sort of vocalist and musical style was. Once you get below 50, it starts being more experimental again. But if you're going to apply a persona, right, just don't have it too high set up, because what it will end up doing is just cloning your original song. Right, so have it at around 65 to 70, I reckon. Don't have it any higher than that unless you just want a remake of a song that you've based your persona on. I believe I've mentioned this one before in a previous video because this is quite an old feature, but one of the things that I like that you can do in Suno is you can go back to your old songs that you created in the old models, like version 3 and so on, and redo them in the new ones. So either version 4, version 4.5. If you've actually done any songs in the older versions of Suno, I strongly suggest going back and remaking them in the new versions, because the difference is like night and day. Honestly, it makes your original songs sound like 10 years old. And the silly thing is version 3.5 of Suno was new when I started using it last April. That was one that a lot of the old videos that I did were in, and that was less than a year ago. So it shows you how far the platform's come, really. One change that they've made to Suno, which can be a little tricky to get used to, is they've rearranged some of the actual creation options in the create menu when you want to do something else with a track you've already made. Like here, you've just got, these are the only 3 options that are really anything to do with track creation: make persona or remaster in a different model. Right, so all the things like extensions, reusing the prompts, they've all been moved to this menu here, remix and edit. And you've got a few different options now, right? So you can either extend it, you can use the same style and lyrics, you can also change the speed. I'm quite keen on this one because there's been a few times when Suno's actually made a really good track that I like, but it's just felt too slow or too fast. Right, so I love that you can now change the speed. You can crop the track, so if you've got any bits you want to chop off the end or at the intro, then you can remove those. And you can also replace sections as well. This replace section feature has been on here for quite a while now, but I absolutely love it, especially since it's got better over time as well. Because one thing that Suno could be really annoying for is actually doing a really good song that was brilliant for 90% of it, but then it'd have some weird bridge in the middle that you didn't like, or it could even like sing a word wrong or sing a line wrong in the middle of a verse. And the only way that you can actually change it originally was just to extend the track from before the part that you wanted to change and hope the rest of it worked out for the best. And this replace section feature actually lets you select very specific parts of the song. When you actually load your song into the Suno editor, it will break it all up in the waveform into the parts of the songs that you've put in the actual lyric prompts. So you've got like intro here, intro, verse, pre-chorus 1, chorus, verse 2, pre-chorus 2, bridge, and so on. And you can just click on that whole chunk and change it all in one go. And one thing that we've added to this song editor recently, if you want to replace a section, right, you can choose which mode of the editor you want to replace it in. Right, so you've got smart mode here. Obviously that does what it says on the tin, auto select based on length. Classic is better for long sections. So if you want to replace this big chunk here where the chorus is, you can do that in classic mode and it will probably work a lot better and give you what you want. And then fixed is better for really short sections. I believe you can only do sections of at least 6 seconds long, but obviously anything over that is fine. And it's better to do it in fixed mode, to be honest, definitely, if you want to replace a short section, like if it's sung a word wrong or something. I think it's probably better that we're going to replace in a section of a song in another video, because this is quite an old feature, to be honest. We've had the song editor a while. It's just that this is a more advanced version that we've used that does pretty much the same thing as it did before, right? So we'll go into that in another video, but you can just now replace sections of a song that you don't like, and that's one of the things that's made Suno so much better in the last year. Now here's a feature that most people have been asking for from Suno since day one: get stems. They've had this for a while, and I've shown you in the past that what you could do is separate your track into an a cappella and an instrumental. Suno would do that for you, but it was just doing it by standard sort of AI stem separation software. Right? It's like anything you've used before, such as vocal remover or whatever. And you're going to run into the same problems with this as what you're going to run into with trying to get a vocal from a pre-recorded track. It's not a stem. You're actually trying to extract something that's already been recorded. And with something like that, you're always going to get artifacts somewhere along the line. And especially with AI generated music, because it hasn't been professionally recorded, it's literally just generated by an AI model, right? So you just naturally get artifacts in AI tunes anyway. Well, I remember when me and Amber first used Suno, to be honest, the weekend she showed me how to use this. We made a track in the old version 3 model, and we tried to separate the vocal from the instrumental, and it was just so full of artifacts. It was impossible to use or do anything with. Right, it has improved obviously over the last year, right, but you still got to get artifacts in anything like that, and it's just the same thing again here. However, now we have this option here that's been added in the last few weeks. You can get all detected stems. Now this is still done by standard AI stem separation, because again, you are just separating a computer generated track, and it will also cost you a lot more credits. It'll cost you 50 credits each time. But I can honestly say, from trying it a couple of times over the last few days, it is actually much more effective than just separating the vocals and instrumental. What I've found is the parts that you get in these stem packs that it gives you, it'll give you the backing vocals, the lead vocals, the percussion parts, pads, and so on. And the vocals tend to have a lot less artifacts in them than the full vocals do on their own, right? So it is worth doing. And also it gives you 2 different versions each time, like it does with the standard vocal and instrumental separation, right? So you can compare the 2 packs you get. And if you're not happy with either of them, you can get it to regenerate another. Although usually what it gives you is the best you're going to get anyway, and it's going to cost you another 50 credits. So just make sure that you really want to give it another go before you waste another 50 credits on generating another stem pack for the same tune, when you could use those credits to make more tunes. And now obviously we've covered quite a few things in this video already, and I don't want this video to be too long, right? So we'll do a more detailed video where I actually show you some of these things in practice over the next few days. However, for a quick demo of the sort of things you can do with the new versions of Suno and the new features that have been added, I'm going to show you this little track that I was working on earlier today. Now, I will say before I go any further, showing you what I've done here, This is just something I did for experimentation purposes. It's not actually a serious project or anything, right? So what I'm showing you here, it's not something I'm suggesting anyone should do with their own proper music. If I'm being completely honest, what I'm going to show you here is just a shortcut way of doing something that songwriters, and especially dance music songwriters, have done for absolute years. We'll take an old pop or rock song, we'll have us a reference track, and use that as to try and create something in a similar lyrical style and structure to create a dance music vocal. The only difference here is, rather than doing it with my own imagination, I'm using the help of an AI chatbot because it's quicker. And like I say, this isn't a serious project. However, I can see why that would look bad. And I will say this again, I wouldn't recommend doing this yourself unless you know what you're doing, because sometimes what you actually create isn't going to sound much different from the original, especially with this song here, Debbie Gibson, Out of the Blue. It's quite a simple, right, song, really. There's not a lot of really in-depth lyrics to it, but you can adapt into something wildly different, as you'll probably notice. I'll show you a little clip of the track in a moment, but as you can see, the lyrics are very simple. It's quite a slight song lyrically, but it just works because it's applied to a good tune and it's quite uplifting, right? So that's why I thought it would be good to apply to a dance track, because a lot of dance vocals are like this. As you can see, without you, I thought everything was fine. Without you, never knowing you'd be mine. Suddenly my world has changed and I wonder why. Now it's you, out of the blue, love appeared before my eyes with you. Yeah, it's really basic lyrically, but I'll show you a little clip of it here. Now, as you can see here, I've stopped using ChatGPT for stuff like this. I'm now using Grok because, yeah, I know it's the dreaded Elon Musk's version of ChatGPT, but I don't really have an opinion on him. His AI chat model's just better because it's less filtered. What I did was I asked Grok to change the lyrics so they have the same meaning, pattern and structure but are completely different. And here is exactly why you should be careful doing this sort of thing for a serious track that you want to release, because as you can see here, the lyrics aren't actually that much different. It's, instead of love appeared in the chorus, it's love arrived. And the verses are pretty much the same. The pre-chorus is quite different, at least, right? But it's pretty much the same song, right? So if you're going to do this sort of thing, right, at least have a good few goes at trying to make it as different as possible. Like I say, though, this was just something I was doing to use in a little project to experiment with Suno's new features. Because one thing you definitely can't do is you can't just copy and paste lyrics from an existing song in there, because it will spot copyrighted lyrics straight away. In fact, they've got quite good at this sort of stuff since they've been sued a few times. Even like uploading like 2 seconds of the percussion from an old 80s record, it will spot it straight away, right? So you just can't get away with stuff like that anymore. So at least I've now got a semi-original song that I could use to make a little trance track. Quick look at the prompts that I put in for this one. They're a lot more detailed than what I usually put in for this sort of thing. In the past, you've just seen me put keywords, but now I've actually put a paragraph pretty much. The track is an energetic, tough but uplifting Ibiza 1998 style trance track at 140 BPM. Pumping trance, offbeat bass, powerful female vocal, F minor key verses with a key change to A flat major in the chorus. So let's have a listen.
Believed that life was going well without you. Never dreamed I'd be under your spell. All at once my heart's been swayed by one loving glance. It all happened just by
I really like this. I'm actually dancing away to it myself at the moment.
I want you. With you is right where I belong. I
key change is beautiful. This is just so much better than anything Suno's produced before, and that was after like 3 attempts at this song. I do have to say, I really love what he's done with that, to be honest. And he's done a few different versions, but that was my favourite one. And that was after like 3 attempts. It's really easy to get what you want out of Suno now. I'm going to leave this video here for today because we've covered a lot of ground in this one. And obviously, I don't want to make it any longer than it needs to be. We've got quite a lot of video here already. I apologise for it being a bit talky and not showing you much actual practical usage of all these features. I will say before we go though, if you're a producer who's wanting to write decent original dance music and you're struggling to get some ideas off the ground, give Suno a go because it's better than ever now. It actually writes properly good songs to me. And if this song I just played yet, if I'd have heard that on the radio, I wouldn't have realised it was an AI song. I am actually aware of a few producers whose music I actually play. They saw the videos that I posted last year showing you how to use Suno AI when it was still the version 3.5 model. And they went and experimented with it themselves and even released tracks about 6 months later with vocals that have been generated on Suno. So they might not have even seen the new version yet. And if they haven't, they need to go give it a go because if they've already been using Suno in their own tracks, then the tracks are going to be even better if you use it now. Anyway, we'll leave that video here for now. I am sorry this one's been a bit long and talky, like I say. I'm sorry we haven't gone through any practical uses of the things I was showing you in the video. But I will do another video in the next few days and I'll come up with a project we can do in it where I can hopefully go through all the things I've shown you today and put them into practice in one video. If you're one of the people who's enjoyed this video, then you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, touch my bells and buttons, feed the algorithm. If you want to find me on social media, I will put my link tree here and I'll also put my Ko-fi page link if anyone wants to donate to me so I can do more videos like this. And my next gig is coming up on the 14th of June at Nottingham, the Lost Weekend Festival. I hope to see some of you there, and I'll catch you in the next video.